You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, we're just going to start all over again. You know, if you can't hear me, guys, I appreciate y'all letting me know. I see a couple people have jumped in and let me know. If you don't hear me or mess up, we may have to do this in the studio or something, and we'll have to replace the mic. I don't know what we have to do. Maybe it's just whatever. I think it's maybe Joe Biden did not want me to tell you this stuff. But anyway, I'll run the sponsors at the end because I want to catch up where I was. Anyway, what's happened? If you were able to catch at least the first part before everything started messing up. Today, the Commerce Department announced that we went down 0.9 GDP. We are in a recession by every technical definition of the word, even if the Biden administration is trying to tell you otherwise. Now, the point about this is that that I've been teaching economics for 30-something years, and I never seen a definition of recession other than 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And when the Democrats are not in the office, that's exactly how they defined it with Bush and with anybody. And they tried it with Trump, but we didn't really have a recession then. But anyway, the point is that we are in a recession now. We've had worse recessions than this. All right, we're not in free fall. We're not in the same situation we were in 2009 and 10, but we are in recession. And what really has been bugging me about this whole thing is that I knew we were going to be in recession 4 or 5 days ago, not because they told me early, but because I saw how the Biden administration and their spokespeople reacted. You had their press secretary, Karine St. Pierre, that was Jean-Pierre rather, who was trying to point out all the great things are happening in the economy. And every time they do that, I know something's coming. And then they send out their other spokespeople to go out there and go out there and try to tell us don't believe your lying eyes, believe us. Here's a good example. Taylor, will you run that clip from the Meet the Press from Sunday?
You seem pretty optimistic, it sounds like, from that answer, that we're going to avoid a recession. But I want to throw in 2 data points that you didn't bring up. One was these reports on Friday about both in the Euro space and in US and in the United States that we've seen some contraction of business activity. Throw in the uptick of unemployment, the weekly unemployment number there. Is that not the first sign of a coming recession, even if it's a mild one?
Well, I would say that we're seeing a slowdown. We're likely to see some slowing of job creation, but I don't think that that's a recession. A recession is broad-based weakness in the economy. We're not seeing that now, and I absolutely don't think that's necessary. But look, there are also risks we have to appreciate. Inflation is high not just in the United States, but also in many of our neighbors in the UK, in Canada, in the Euro area. Central banks are addressing that. We have a war in Ukraine that threatens potentially even higher oil prices than we're seeing right now. One of the things that I've been doing in recent weeks is working with our allies to try to cap the price of that Russia receives for its oil, both to diminish the revenues that Russia gets, but also to keep Russian oil selling in global markets so that when the next round of sanctions is put in place in December by the European Union, we're concerned that significant amounts of oil could be shut in Russia, leading to an oil price spike. So there are threats on the horizon. Growth is slowing globally, and I'm not saying that we will definitely avoid a recession, but I think there is a path that keeps the labor market strong and brings inflation down.
Help us play armchair economist this week.
That's good. Anyway, so you can see that they're out there trying to make sure that everybody understands this is not a recession. This is just business as usual. Anyway, like I said on Monday, Joe Biden says, "God will, we're not going into a recession." That's a quote. It was in all the papers. All right. Today, his administration set out a statement basically saying, well, because we were growing so fast last year, we can't help but slow down now. See, so we were unprecedented economic growth after the pandemic because of my administration now. So it's only natural that it's going to slow down. Well, they weren't saying that 3 or 4 days ago. Now they're saying, well, it's to be expected. Is today that it was a complete contradiction as to what he said 4 days ago. But see, there's a whole record of complete contradictions. There's a good article about and National Review yesterday talked about it over and over and over again about how his economic prognoses turned out to be completely false. Like in December, he says, Mr. Biden said about inflation, I think it's the peak of the crisis. Developments in the weeks after these data were collected last month show that a price and cost increase are slowing. I expect more progress on that in the week ahead. And at that time it was 7%. Now it's 9.1. He said the same thing when the inflation rate came out last week or 2 weeks ago. It came out on the 13th. Well, our latest data shows it's already slowing down. So he said the exact same thing in December, and we've been up 2 points since then. Also, he talked about how the baby formula crisis is solved, and it's actually worse today than it was when it was at its peak about 3 months ago. Okay. Since May, the formula shortage has actually gotten worse, not better, according to National Review. Also, they talk about the supply chain issues have been resolved, and they're just even worse now. They're blaming the recession on that now. But last December, he said that the much predicted crisis didn't occur. Packages are moving, gifts are being delivered, shelves are not empty. Yet we all know that's not the case. And so now we're being asked to believe that what we're experiencing really is not a recession. It's just your imagination, or it's Fox News, or it's the Russians, it's the Chinese, it's whatever else you want to talk about. It's somebody else's fault. Now, is the president responsible for every detailed economy? Answer is no, because there are things he can't predict or you can't adjust to, but a lot of these things were predictable, and a lot of them were avoidable, or at least could have been made less painful, so to speak. All right. And so the idea that it's it's Putin's price hike, that it's the Chinese slowdown, that it's all this other stuff is sideline features. But the point of the matter is that a lot of the policies that were impacting our oil and gas prices were caused by this administration. A lot of the supply chain problems were caused by problems like in the ports in California and the union rules. And also, this is going to get really into the weeds. It's got something called the Jones Act, where something that says that you can only ship American goods on American ships once they reach American port. Well, what that means is when the Chinese ship comes in and unloads some of its gear, if some of that's destined for another port, that Chinese ship can't just pull out and take it to that port. No, it's got to be all unloaded and put on an American ship and then taken by an American ship to another port. It's a union saving job program. And so it costs, that's one of our slowdowns. And second of all, since 40% of our imports come through California, and they have exceptionally stringent standards for the vehicles that are used to transport this, that makes it even more difficult. A lot of truckers won't go into California because they can't, because of their emission standards don't meet exceptionally high standards. And so it's all these things that could be resolved on our end of the deal than before. And I mentioned it before y'all got glitched up. When they talk about the 3.6 unemployment rate, that there's a reason why that is right now, according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. has 3.25 million fewer Americans working today compared to February of 2020. Right now, the latest data shows that we have over 11 million job openings in the U.S., but only 6 million unemployed workers. We have a lot of jobs, but not enough workers to fill them. If every unemployed person in the country found a job, we'd still have 5.4 million open jobs. So that our labor force is at the lowest it's been in 40 years in terms of labor force participation. It has become such a problem. That we talk about how people can't find people to work and things like that. It's more to it than just that. It's one reason why we're having all these slowdowns is because we have a situation in which services are not being met. We talk about going into restaurants and not having servers. We talk about going into stores and not having clerks, and on and on and on. And that's a real thing. And some of this is caused by government policies. I'm not gonna say that every time something happens is automatically Biden's fault, but he's not doing the things that it takes to fix it. He's not taking on certain lobby groups that have a great deal of power within the Democrat Party, unions and the environmental lobbies and things of that nature. He won't do it. And so we're going through this routine, and then we're being told it's not happening. And that's what really bugs me. Okay, we go through this routine and it's not happening, according to them. And you saw the clip, and all these other administrative officials are out there. They're out there today saying, "Well, it slowed down a little bit, but technically we're not in a recession." I mean, and they're trying to split hairs. Now, for most American people, by far, the problem is inflation, and they're trying to tell us it's already coming down, according to their data. Well, they've said this before. Second of all, let's say it does go down from 9.1 to say like 8.1 or 7.9. They're going to be up there jumping up and down and saying, "No, hallelujah, 7.9 is still a 40-year high in inflation. It's not good. 7.9 is still high inflation." And again, why is it happening? It's not strictly because the policies are creating less inflationary pressures. It's just we're just not spending as much money as we did before. Okay. So, and how does it look? I'm pulling this straight from the New York Times. 8 signs that the economy is losing steam. One is that the consumer outlook is the worst it's been in about 20 years. They've been doing this for a long, long time. And the last time the consumer outlook was this low as February of 2001. Okay. And so, no, February 2002, I'm sorry. And that was, after the 9/11 and all this other business. And so a lot of American consumers are pulling back because they worry about a recession. Now, one of the things I taught in my classes is that consumer expectations and business expectations are major drivers of economy. If you think the economy is going to go well, you may end up spending that extra money for a new TV, refrigerator. You'll take out that loan for a car and whatever else. But if you think the economy is not going to be doing well 6 months from now, or a month from now, or whenever, then you're going to probably not buy that stuff, and that does affect the outcome. That's a economic fact that expectations is a major factor. Second of all, what else do they say? Retail sales. This is what I was talking about. The latest report from the Commerce Department showed that retail sales fell 0.3% in May and rose less in April than initially believed. One of the things I teach my economics classes, or did when I was, in those situations, was that when you talk about the overall economic spending of a government, of economy rather, 70% or more is from consumers. 70%. And when that declines even a small amount, it does slow growth. And if it rises even a small amount and there's not a supply rise to go with it, that's what causes inflation. The number one driver of price levels and employment levels is consumer spending, and it's declining. Last month, Walmart said they had to cut their profit margin expectations by half because of less consumer spending. And a lot of companies are doing that. That particularly that deal with the retail end of our economy. Mentioned all here about the consumer confidence. Here's a quote from the New York Times. In June, the University of Michigan survey of consumer sentiment hit its lowest level in its 70-year history, with nearly half respondents saying inflation is eroding their standard of living. That kind of goes along with the worried outlook. Over half the American people are saying inflation is eroding their standard of living, and it's the lowest consumer confidence they've had since they began recording this particular piece of data back right before World War II. Okay. Housing market slowed down. Demand for real estate has decreased, and the construction of homes is slowing. And a lot of that's going to be connected to yesterday's interest rate hike, another 0.75. Now, for those of us who are on, I have fixed rates of, fixed interest rates like mortgages and all. It's one thing, but you look at all the consumer credit, almost all of it's based on the points that the Fed assigns and whatnot. And so consumer credit's going to go way up, installment credit's going to go way, car payment loans are going to go up. Every time the rates increase, you're going to have lower spending. Now, why is the Fed raising the rates? Because that is the biggest and best solution to inflation. Okay? Lowering spending, as painful as it is is the best solution to inflation. The trick is what they're trying to create is what they call, quote, a soft landing, which is ridiculous. What they are trying to generate a recession of sorts to slow down spending and get the supply chain back up to speed. A great example, I've used this before, it was when Reagan took over, Paul Volcker, the chair of the Fed, said, we're going to pursue inflation. And he raised interest rates considerably. And it really slowed the economy down a lot. And unemployment became very high, and Reagan's approval ratings were in the dirt, and on and on, but it worked. By the time Reagan was up for re-election, unemployment had been cut about in half, and inflation rate had been cut in about in half, and the progress was being seen by the Americans, and that's why he won 49 out of 50 states. So my point is that the interest rates, every time you see the Fed raise interest rates, that is an anti-inflationary recession causing move. And I'll say that again. It's done because of inflation. And it's kind of like taking these vaccines that make you sick for a day. So hopefully it'll help you in the long distance with your health. But after you take the COVID vaccine or the shingles vaccine or whatever it is you're taking, you feel really terrible for about 36 hours. That's what's happening here in an economic sense. Also, fewer businesses are being started up, and the startup funding's gone down. The stock market, look, the stock market is reflective, not a cause of this business. It's reflective of it. But there is some real impact about lower stock prices, and it isn't just that the fat cats aren't making as much money. Most stock, the majority of stock, is owned not by Bezos and Musk and that crowd. It's owned by institutional owners, such as pension funds, such as like the TRS that I'm part of, such as insurance company portfolios to help bolster their profit lines and keep the insurance rates lower, things like that. So when the market crashes, you shouldn't say, well, the fat cats had it coming, because we're the fat cats. Okay. We're the fat cats. Because most of us, particularly as, more seasoned people, depend upon these portfolios that are largely based in the performance of the S&P and the Dow Jones. Also, commodity prices, oil is coming down somewhat, but it's still it's still high. Now, really what caused oil prices to jump isn't just the Russian situation. It also was caused by investors thinking that oil is going to be higher 6 months from now, so I'm going to buy futures in the oil markets now, and so I can make profits later. And so that's what pushed the prices of oil up as much as anything else. But now that these bans on Russian oil are now finally coming online, like Janet Yellen just mentioned, then they're going to start bouncing back up probably in about October, November, roughly about then. And so there's other things that go into that are really, talking about all these factors are red flashing signals that are really having a problem with the economy. And that's just part of it. Okay, that's just part of it. What's happening here at the local level, here in Burleson or Johnson County area, I don't have to tell you what happens when you go into the grocery stores. We all see it. We all see the gas station prices. We all see that, it's very, very difficult to run a business. I had Otto from our place on about a week ago Tuesday, and we were talking about how difficult it was to run a restaurant when his prices keep changing. He's talking about a box of straws is now 3 times more expensive than it was even a year ago. A box of straws. And other reports, I've seen them in the news, I've seen them on Facebook too, talking about how the cost of things have just quadrupled. Like chicken, boxes of chicken have quadrupled in price. The fact that Otto and others have kept the prices down has a lot to do with their ingenuity and the fact that they're making less money and the fact that they're eating the cost. Now today, I haven't read enough about this to make a lot of comments about it, but this, in brief, Senator Manchin caved like I thought he might, and he's agreed to that bill that's going to, supposedly lower healthcare costs for Medicare patients and things like that. And that's fine. That's good. That could have been done separately. But the Democrats tied in all these environmental and climate change policies in it, which are going to emphasize renewable energy. Fine. I get it. But it's also going to mean higher prices. Okay. It also is going to mean that as we transition away, as Joe Biden says, it's going to be higher prices in the energy markets, and they're going to raise taxes on corporations. Now, that again may seem like a really good idea. Hey, Jeff Bezos got it; he could spend it. I promise you, Jeff Bezos ain't paying those corporate taxes. We are. If they raise what this bill would do is create a minimum 15% tax on all U.S. corporations of a certain size. I mean, it wouldn't change the tax rates for auto and other local businesses but over a certain level of income, you have a 15% flat rate. Now that sounds great, and they're paying their fair share, but it's another cost to the business, and the cost will be passed on to consumers. This sounds counterintuitive, but I am not a fan of corporate taxes. Not because I'm some capitalist shill and I'm trying to um, not because I'm some sort of um, a apologist for the system. But every time, if you raise 50% minimum taxes on Walmart, then the prices in Walmart stuff will be higher. Also, what that means is that the dividends that Walmart pays to its stockholders will be less. And we, again, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you can't be thinking of these guys. You can't be thinking of these guys all lighting their cigars with $100 bills. I am an investor in Walmart indirectly. I don't, because of the TRS system, or my insurance company, or any other pension, my 401k, or my wife's 401k to be specific. All these funds that people have put their retirements in, 401ks and 403bs, are all owners of Walmart or Amazon or General Motors, or you fill in the blank. Oh, I'm getting somebody from California watching. Oh, no, not California. I'm sorry. New Mexico. Hey, how about that, from New Mexico? Great. Good for you. Thank you for joining the show, sir. See, Taylor, my reach is getting bigger, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, from Los Alamos. Anyway, back to what I'm ranting about. Uh, I know it in some sort of aesthetic thing. It makes it sound good. Oh, Walmart's going to pay. It's not going to get out of paying taxes. Well, first of all, this hadn't been passed yet, so we'll see if it actually happens. But if it is passed, there's going to be loopholes and cutouts and all this other stuff, because the Democrat senators from Wisconsin are going to make sure that their companies are taken care of. And so is Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts. And so are the Connecticut Democrats going to make sure that their companies, their insurance companies, are taken care of. So before we start hollering about hallelujah that they're going to have 15%, we'll see. Second of all, again, like I just been mentioning, we're paying it. Either we're going to be paying it in higher prices or lower dividends. And it really kind of bugs me when people on social media, all look at stockholders and stock owners as like plutocrats and all this other stuff. I'm no plutocrat, but I have a definite interest in the stock market doing well. And I want those dividends to accrue to my 401k and 403bs. So before we get all excited about that, there you are. So, but anyway, this is the idea of inflation fighting. Is basically they're going to raise the rates, which actually, raising interest rates is a prescribed method of raising tax rates. Raising tax rates is a prescribed method of fighting inflation, but it's meant for consumer tax increases, not corporate. Let's be very clear what I'm saying. Only way tax increases work at the macro level to reduce inflation is if they're applied to the consumer side of the situation. In other words, you and me. If they were serious about using tax policy as a means of fighting inflation, they'd raise our taxes. Well, that's not a vote getter. It's not going to happen. The second alternative is they can cut government spending. Well, they're about to spend $450 billion over the next 10 years. So that's not happening. And so what we're getting out of this is, they're going to throw this sand in your eyes and tell you that, hey, you're going to, we're fighting all these inflations, all these other stuff. And it's just not going to work. And really, where the tax increase is going to hit the most is not going to be my Lexus is going to be more expensive. What it means is when I go to Walmart and buy, whatever, a non-food product in this state, since we don't tax food yet. But if I'll go and buy a non-food product at Target or H-E-B or whatever else, and it's taxed, it's the lower end consumer items that get taxed the most, or the taxes felt the most. And it's the lower end of our economy and earners that get hit with this tax the hardest. That's why I get really frustrated with the government, because they talk about being on the side of the working class and all this other stuff, yet their policies do more to hurt the working class than anybody else. The destruction of the fossil fuel industry hurts the working class, makes their gas more expensive, takes away thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs. They raise taxes on Walmart and make stuff for the people who go to Walmart because it's cheaper, makes it more expensive for them. And I just really get frustrated with this. Because, the hypocrisy of it really drives me crazy. If they were, you talk about raising taxes on like Bezos and Musk and all these other people like Warren wants to do, they're going to get around it. They don't hire those lobbyists and lawyers up in DC because of their good looks. They'll get around it. So my point is that we end up having to pay the price for a lot of these policies, and they want to blame China and they want to blame Russia and yada, 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 yada. Now, that being said, do I have any expectations of the next 5 or 6 months? And the answer is I could make as many guesses as the rest of them. But my personal opinion is inflation will come down a little bit, and they'll be hollering and carrying on like this administration is the wisest of all time. I don't think the output levels are going to rise. I could see a third quarter of declining growth, and we'll hear the routine then. Well, we really don't define it with 3 quarters. It's a full year and all this other rubbish. I think also that we're going to our unemployment rates are going to start rising a little bit at a time. We're not going to like this big boom. But I think it won't be 3.6 on election day. It'll be a little higher. Why? Because people are going to start getting back into the workforce, and that's going to change the numbers. And by the way, when they talk about when Joe Biden says we created 4 million jobs so far this year, first of all, he hadn't committed a single job yet, except for lawyers and attorneys. Second of all, it's not a net figure. How many jobs were destroyed? How many jobs were lost? Okay. The idea that we created all these jobs, and they also define full employment. If I got a job for 10 hours a week for some company, I would be considered fully employed, and I would be one of those 4 million jobs that were created. So we're not talking about we shouldn't get the idea that there are 4 million 40-hour a week, good paying jobs. That's not it. What you're getting are a lot of part-time jobs and things of that nature. So another thing, by the way, I neglected to bring down is the real wage rate has come down in the last 6 months. Why? Because of inflation. We're actually making less on a real basis than we were a year ago. And I don't have to tell you about that because you see it yourself. You see these things yourself. Now, as far as any solutions, we don't. There's no solution that's painless. There's no solution that's painless. My best solution, and this you'll get some of the supply siders excited, is we got to do something about these supply chain problems, and we can't be blaming China and Russia. We got to take care of the problems here. We got to do better with our own shipping and transportation system. We need those oil and gas pipelines, despite what people think. Oil and gas pipelines are more economically viable than shipping it by truck or car or rail car. I meant. Supposedly, on a side note, Manchin got from this deal the creation of more pipelines, but mostly around his area of the country. It didn't include Keystone, the famous one. But we need to also break these union tight rules about how we ship our goods, either through the ports or through the other transportation systems. That would do a lot right there to bring down inflation. Also, we're going to have to, and Joe Biden has acknowledged this, even if not in words, but we are going to have to do something about oil and gas production here. Last week, he sold another 20 million barrels from the strategic reserve. It is the lowest it has been in 40 years now. The strategic reserve, the last time it was tapped at this low level was during the late 70s. And we're going to have to replace that someday. But we're now at about 2/3 capacity because we keep tapping the strategic petroleum reserve. But we're also so in a way he's acknowledging that we need to do more. And then he goes to Saudi Arabia and please, please, please drill more oil. I can't really get my head around how come the environmental groups weren't on the warpath on that one more often, because he goes there. The environmental impact is, if it's truly global, like they say, it doesn't matter if they're drilling over there or drilling over here. There's global impact, and they're getting the jobs, we're getting back, and so that's a real problem. If they also were concerned about fighting inflation, they just wouldn't be flooding the economy with money. That's what the Federal Reserve did, and that's what the government's doing now by its spending, is flooding the economy with money. And there is a direct correlation between inflation and the value of money. Absolutely. We put too much money in the economy, and now it's costing us. The $1.9 trillion COVID bill in March of 2021, and all the money before that, they still have billions of unspent dollars from those acts alone. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars nationwide are still unspent. And so we are flooding our economy with money. We need to tighten it up. And I guess the Fed's trying to do that now, but the idea of doing it with a soft landing is ludicrous. Anyway, I'm going to come to a conclusion here. I'm going to run the ads because if y'all heard me earlier, our system was glitching. I don't know what. It's still going good, Taylor?
So far, so good.
No glitches. Okay, I hope not. That's good. All right. I don't know what was causing it in the first place. I hope you tell your friends and whatnot. All right. Anyway, let's run through the ads real quick, all of them. Thank you to Daniel at CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Get yourself a good workout with the CrossFit system. They have the trainers, they have the programs, the regimens, the whole thing there. Check on the website for membership and times and things of that nature. So thank you, Daniel. So check out CrossFitBurleson.com. Also, thank you to Shandy, who's enjoying her vacation and making us all jealous with those pictures from England and Scotland with the cool weather and whatnot. Also, check out our 817life.com page. It's very informative for this area, for what's going on. She does a really great job with it. Even from there, she's still keeping the page up. So anyway, but if you're looking for real estate in this area, and it seems like everybody out west is moving here, particularly from California, you want to talk to somebody like Shandy, who knows the real estate. We know if she knows where the sales are, she knows what's going on with the real estate market and the interest rates, which are, like I've been talking about, been rising. Also, thank you to Rex. You definitely need a financial advisor to help you with your 401ks, 403bs, other retirement plans, college saving plans, the whole thing. So check out myfinancialbox.com and get to know Rex, have a little coffee, become a client, and he'll help you through all this up and down with the stock market and all the crisis that goes with it. Thank you to Gayla over at Southern Gym. Great stuff. Everybody that has gone there just raves about it because there's great inventory and great service. Gayla knows what she's doing. She's certified by several different jeweler certification programs and accreditation programs. It has great inventory and service. And so check out Southern Gym in the top of the Windmiller building. Also, thank you to Hotworks. Thank you to Michelle for what she does at 731 John Jones over by Chicken Salad Chick, right off the street there, right across from some of the the new construction going on for a health clinic. So Hotworks, check it out. 11 different programs, infrared workout, safe, secure, clean. It's a good program. A lot of people swear by it. Also, Mandy, Creative Concepts by Mandy, the creator of this fine hat and those yellow mugs I've been giving away. I got a few more left. Creative Concepts by Mandy. I really endorse what she does. She does good work. She's very conscientious. A lot of people in the networking group I'm in use her, and they swear by her. So Creative Concepts by Mandy over at 1187. Thank you to Otto over at our place. I had breakfast there this morning. As always, it's great. Saw his son, who really runs the show. Otto is on another vacation, but Otto is a great corporate citizen, and I appreciate him very much. He does really good work. There's a lot of things he does for this community that he doesn't take a lot of credit for, or any credit for. So there you go. Anyway, so Otto has a great service and great crew. Same with Chris over at Cigar and Culture, Wild Cigar and Culture. Wild is becoming a very popular place in town. A lot of people go there for the smoke or a drink or both. They also go there because it's a quiet place to do business or think or to have conversation with friends, as opposed to having to shout across the table. It's a Wild Cigar over at the Standard Building. Thank you to Tiffany over at Local Life. Check out locallifetx.com at the marketing group. Her magazine's coming out next week. Local Life is one of the best advertising sources, other than Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Good advertising source. But I advertise in it, and I get a lot of good responses from it. 30,000 homes get it, and she's increasing every month. And also, I am putting a plug in for myself. I'm looking for sponsors. I have good sponsors. I have great sponsors, and I'm very selective about my sponsors. I had to turn down a couple of people, not because they were bad people, but they didn't fit into the family, so to speak, the kind of grouping that I'm looking for. But so if you're looking to be a sponsor of this podcast, message me and we'll get through with it. Also, Taylor, do you have that stuff from Harvest House we had Tuesday?
I don't on this computer, but I will tomorrow.
Okay, well, that's fine. Well, okay, fine. But Harvest House is having not only a big event at the fire station Saturday, blazing the stations with school supplies. They have the Little Red Schoolhouse, which is a well-known institution here in town. The Little Red Schoolhouse boxes are all over the community for you to put school supplies for kids who need them. So if you see a Little Red Schoolhouse, remember next time you're at Target or Walmart or wherever you buy your stuff, and buy an extra pad of pens or paper or whatever else. There's a list on the Harvest House website that all the things they're looking for. So this is really a good thing. And they're also always looking for help and money and otherwise for the summer meals program, which is going to go on to August 19th. I'm going to have Jennifer on again. She was on Tuesday. Great show. So check it out. You can see all the stuff that we have going on with them. And she'll be on the show again on August 29th. Now, here's an announcement that may catch some of y'all by surprise, and I'm going to try to say this as as well as I can. Those of y'all who live in this area, unlike Valiant Thor here, appreciate your diligence, but this may not apply to you directly, sir, because he's at Los Alamos. How should I say this? The back and forth, shall we say, between myself and my competitive station and Mr. Stanford and Miss Payne is well documented. And I said on the show that I did not want to have Mr. Stanford on the show because of various reasons. I have since been convinced and have changed my mind that it'd be good for the community for us to talk. So he will be a guest on this Tuesday. I think hopefully we'll both get something productive out of it. Now, I know that sounds like, what's a good way of putting it? It sounds like it could be combustible. I don't think it will be. I really don't. It's not my intention. I hope it's not his. I don't think it will be. I'm sure, but I think it's important. I've talked to several people that said, this would be good for not just your show so much, but it'd be good for the community to see some civil debate between people who have obviously taken opposite sides on several different issues like the SROs and et cetera. So in the interest of this civil conversation, I've invited Mr. Stanford and he's accepted. And we're going to talk Tuesday in the studio. I plan on extending that same invitation to Ms. Payne for similar reasons. Now, I expect nothing but a constructive conversation. I don't expect anything else. And I know that feelings or emotions are running fairly high around SRO issues and other issues in this community. Hopefully this will kind of take some of the steam out of that. That's my hope, and I'm sure it is theirs as well. And I'm going to at least that's going to be the approach. So over the next couple of days, if you have questions that you would like for me to bring up with Mr. Stanford, I'm already going to send him a category of things I want to ask. But yeah, I bet we all know what y'all want to know. But send me some questions either on the Facebook or on Mr. Allard's Neighborhood or private message, or if you have my number, you can text me. So I'm looking forward to it. I understand that people think it's going to be some contentious thing. It's not my expectation. I don't think it's his either. We'll see how it goes. So there you are. Tell your friends. Tuesday. On Monday, I'm going to have Garita Daniels on a much different topic. We're going to talk about not just the chamber, but their events, but also about, becoming a member and things of that nature. So let me know what you think about this show. Let me know what you think about my upcoming guests, and we'll see y'all next week.